Welcome, everyone, to Day 4 of the VORI's 7th Annual Economic Development and Incentives Conference. We're really excited that so many of you have joined us this week. It's been fun to gather with you virtually, share ideas, get questions, and hopefully impart something helpful to you this week. We're really excited to have you join us next year in person again, where we expect more than 300 will gather again in February in Columbus of our good economic development friends and have that great in-person camaraderie. For now, this is what we have, and thank you for joining us. One reminder before you exit this session today, please complete the survey, and please give us some ideas for next year's conference or other year's conference. With that said, I'm going to hand it off to Rita, Jill, and Chris for their presentation. Take it away.
Yep. Thanks, Scott. Appreciate it. And good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. This is our second to last session for the week. So during this session, I'm joined by Rita Williams and Jill Giles from the Kroger Company. And they're going to discuss how a new business model for the company resulted in challenges while negotiating and securing incentives packages. And then we'll talk about the various ways those challenges were overcome, to result in win-win scenarios for both the company and the jurisdictions where Kroger is constructing a series of new fulfillment centers. I do want to note that we want to encourage questions from the audience, so please ask them in the Q&A box, and we will try to get to as many of them as we can at the end. So I want to start by introducing Rita Williams. Rita is a director of economic development at the Kroger Company. She has almost 20 years of experience in economic development in various industries, including retail, process manufacturing, supply chain, and utilities. Rita has helped grow and currently leads a really sophisticated economic development group at Kroger. Her responsibilities include direct coordination with location-based incentives for the entire Kroger group of companies, including site selection in 35 states of operations. So the types of deals that Rita handles regularly span a wide range from retail stores to manufacturing, distribution operations to complex mixed-use developments. So in addition to economic development, Rita has a state and local tax background, and she began her career at PwC, and she has a Bachelor of Science in Accounting and Finance from Northern Kentucky. Also joining us from Kroger is Jill Giles. Jill is an economic development strategist, advising on and facilitating key site selection and expansion initiatives across the U.S. She has worked with economic development organizations around the globe for more than 2 decades. Like Rita, Jill handles economic development projects of all types across the country and has played a key role in securing incentives as the company has rolled out this new business model that we'll talk about today. She holds a BA in criminology and Italian from the Ohio State University and an MBA in finance from George Mason. So just as an overview for what we'll talk about today, Rita's going to describe the industry trends that have led her company to embrace a new type of business model and how those trends have shifted the company's network strategy. She'll also walk us through how those factors led the company to take on an ambitious plan to construct and strategically place fulfillment centers across the country in order to better serve their customers. So to do this, Kroger entered into a joint venture with a company that had really never done business in the U.S. before. And as you can imagine, negotiating incentives for a facility that the company has never constructed with a business partner that's not really familiar with doing business in the U.S. can create some interesting challenges for Rita, Jill, and their team. So we'll discuss how those challenges were resolved through some creative thinking and innovation, partnership with the state and local jurisdiction, and just Rita being a tough negotiator that she is. So with that, Rita, I will turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Chris. And good afternoon, everyone. I'm really excited about being back here on the panel for VORI's. Like Scott said, I can't wait till next year till we're all in person. I really enjoy the camaraderie. So with this, we'll make do with what we have. I'd like to make this a little interactive. As Chris mentioned, some of the things that we're doing as a company, I'll be able to give some examples. And then what I'd like to do is just to get insight from the group here and really welcome questions. And then to the extent we can answer those questions, we would be happy to answer them either online today or even follow-up questions as well. So before we begin, as Chris mentioned, we're going to be discussing how we drive growth through our e-commerce business and how we are going to partner, how we continue to partner in partnering with our economic development entities to drive these innovative solutions. So really to say 2020 was the right year to launch a delivery e-commerce business would really be an understatement. Our e-commerce retails around the world have seen record multiple growth. So, due to the worldwide pandemic, nobody would have thought that this e-commerce would take off as much as it has. So for Kroger, and they'll dive into this in a little bit, but we've been thinking about this strategy for the last 3 years. So it's not like one day we decided we're going to be building these fulfillment centers. This has been a strategy that's built up over years, and I'm going to be walking through that, and then I'm going to be walking through how we partner with state and local communities for this innovation. So a little bit about Kroger, just to kind of give some background. Taking the world's largest supermarket chain in the U.S., we have over 435,000 associates. We operate in 35 states, and we have over 2,800 brick and mortar stores. So you take that, and then you try to now you're going to create an e-commerce company out of that. So there's a lot of planning that goes involved. And there's a lot of decision making that's also plays a key role. So what I'd like to do today is to just start off with a polling question. And as you're looking at the polling question, maybe Chris, we can go to the next slide. Okay, so in this question, I'd like to get some feedback. So how often have you placed a grocery online pickup or delivery order? And I'd like you to think about this as you're answering the question. Think about it as you are living today, as opposed to pre-COVID. So, and I'll give you some insight that we've identified. But have you visited or did pick up 1 to 3 times a week? Do you do it weekly? Do you do it monthly? Or if you've never done pickup or delivery, I will show you how. Okay, so it looks like, so our results show that 1 to 3 times a week, 8.7%, and weekly 17%, and monthly 30%. Okay, that's great to know the audience that we have here and what we're talking through. And I will definitely give you a lesson on how to do it and how quick and easy it is and how it's going to be a game changer. I do this, and a little sidebar, when I meet with the mayor's office or with the governor, I always leave with pulling out my iPhone and showing them my app and then ordering my groceries and say, well, when I get on the plane, I'm going to be picking these up in Cincinnati. So they're pretty impressed, and it's just that easy. So hoping we can shed some insight on that. Chris, if we want to go to the next slide. Okay, so as we talk about the retail trends, and I'm going to give a little bit of background on what do we see right now in e-commerce, and then really focus on the grocery e-commerce. So here, so for the grocery side, the online ordering sales has increased over 110%. So basically what that means is that anybody who has never tried to do a grocery pickup or a delivery, or working with those modalities, they have at least tried it once and had a good experience with it, or haven't tried it and is either willing to try it and allowing, and Kroger is trying to allow that modality and that footprint for our customers to share that experience. So the main reason why these the increase of sales have increased so much is because it's the ease of online ordering. And really, if we make it as easy as possible and our customers really like the convenience, they will come back. The other reason why is it's continued social distancing from the pandemic. So most of the customers, especially the elderly, are still getting that sense of trying to stay social distancing. And then, with the online ordering and the increase of competition and going to market pretty quickly, most of the e-commerce companies are really trying to step up their game. I don't know if you've watched in the news, but many of these companies that have never done online or pickup, and Kroger has over 2,000 pickup locations at our brick and mortar stores. So many of these companies are just starting to do pickup and having that convenience. So you're seeing the trend over the next several years and months that most of our customers are really shifting their behavior, and they're realizing that they can still continue to order online and really get everything they need to get, and really allow for that convenience factor. And they've been very pleased with the results. And I also like to take feedback from the audience here. I appreciate, if somebody had a bad experience, what was the bad experience? How can we improve? Really, that's from our perspective, how do we make this a win-win situation? And that'll go hand in hand when we talk about, with each of the local economic development communities, how to make us a win-win for the community as well. So that's really important for us to consider. So the main stake here is to provide a seamless, efficient process. And to do that, we have increased our modalities. And the modalities that I'm referring to essentially is if you want to look at, you pull up our website and you want to look at placing an order, we will automatically ask you, do you want it picked up at your location? Do you want it delivered to your house? Or do you want it shipped to you? So you have anyhow, we can get those groceries to you. And really what the unique thing is that many companies have perfected how do you handle e-commerce business for goods, such as household goods and shipping of a television. But what hasn't been perfected is how do you ship your groceries and keep your milk cold and your ice cream cold right next to your Cheerios, right? So, how do you handle that? And this innovation that we're going to be talking about really with our partnership with Ocado Solutions, they have perfected this, and we're rolling this out for the first time in the United States. And like I mentioned before, we have done this. We've been working on this for a little over 3 years now. One thing I do also want to call out on this slide is that we anticipated the customer behavioral shift, and COVID-19 has really escalated it and has pushed us forward about 3 to 5 years ahead of our time frame. So essentially, as we were looking at preparing this innovation with the company, COVID, a lot of companies had shifted their business model in COVID. We have shifted now to really enhancing this modality and allowing our customers to have options in how they choose their groceries. One last thing I want to call out on this slide, there's a section here that says companies to watch in 2021. This was sent out through, I believe it was the New York Times, and they had Kroger on there, or actually it was Newsweek, apologize. And they had Kroger on there to watch out because of our partnership with Ocado and how we are rolling out this solution. Okay, Chris, if we can go to the next slide. Okay, so the network strategy, a little bit about our strategy. And then I wanted to give you a sense of what we had to deal with and then how we worked with communities in explaining this. So, our network strategy group, as I mentioned before, we're a brick and mortar company. We have over 2,800 stores. We offered to pick up, and now we're converting to delivery. And our strategy team, we're very excited to announce in 2 weeks our first fulfillment center that we announced over 2 years ago will be opening, and that fulfillment center will be able to deliver groceries to your house, and they will also be able to deliver groceries for pickup or wherever the location you choose. I did a tour with Ocado when I was out in the UK, and one of the customer delivery drivers, I asked him a question: what was the most unique delivery that you did? And he said the most unique one in the UK is that he delivered to a boat dock, and he delivered lunches and supplies and beverages to the boat site, and then they loaded everything on, and that deliver anywhere, anyhow, and that is feasible. So I say that just to see what this change, the change in this strategy, what it will do to allow customers really to partner with Kroger, and also we can be able to give our customers what they need and when they need it. So the key here is to have a seamless experience, and I mentioned seamless primarily because we want to make sure that if a customer is sitting, Chris, you're sitting in Columbus, and if you want to place an order to be delivered to your house on Sunday at noon, you would do the same thing I would do. I pick up the app, and it doesn't matter where you are, and you want it delivered to your location in Columbus. And same here. I want to be able to have it delivered to here in Cincinnati. So we want to make sure that it is definitely works within our system, and that whole network is really key. And I'm going to walk through how we roll out that network and what that platform and that footprint looks like. We also look to ways to accelerate the expansion of our network. So to redefine the customer experience, and our digital e-commerce group really is key to making that happen. So every time you partner and you open up the Kroger app, you will be able to see that seamless experience. And that really gets you to what is your true e-commerce. And the other couple things I want to talk about on the network strategy is meeting the customer demands and what the customers want. We try to really get customer insight in how they want to shop and what they want, and building out our digital ecosystem within the United States. So think about, we operate in 35 states today, and then throughout the United States, as we build out this ecosystem, we're going to be focusing on communities where we engage with our customers and we have a heavy presence. In addition, we're going to be focused on locations that we do not have a presence. And that can be a challenge when you're going into a community that you've never stepped foot in. They don't even know who Kroger is. So we feel like, Cincinnati, Columbus, everyone knows Kroger. And first of all, you have to go into a community and then sell Kroger. And then you have to sell Ocado, who is this UK company somewhere off doing online e-commerce. And then you're selling, well, we're going to be bringing this big fulfillment center, 350,000 square feet with hundreds of jobs, and we're going to bring groceries in there and then deliver to your house. And that's a tall order to have to explain and not even have one built in the United States to even visualize what this looks like. So we had a significant amount of challenges just to explain that to each of the communities that we dealt with. And so that's how we're building out our digital ecosystem. And then the innovation and the automation, and we'll talk about the bots and what their role is and what they do, and how that automation is really the game changing for this innovative strategy. If we go to the next slide, Chris, we can get a visual. I'm a very visual person, so we can get a visual. And I can, these are all publicly announced, so I can tell you about the ones that we have announced to date. So for Kroger, as we mentioned, we operate in over 35 states. And as we announced our ecosystem, how do we build out this network? And keep in mind, for every one of these fulfillment centers, there is what they call a catchment area of servicing our customers. So as you look at that catchment area and you start to build out this ecosystem, you start to look where there's overlap and where there's pockets of areas that are not being serviced. And it's it's interesting. If you look at the map, we've announced Ohio, as I mentioned, which is opening up here in a couple weeks. Florida, we had, we don't have a footprint in Florida today. So it was a bit of a challenge with Kroger coming in and, explaining what we want to do from a grocery perspective in Florida. And then the West Coast states and even in our Northwest states in Maryland. And so as you look at this is what we've done in the last 2 years. So we're looking to continue to build this out over the next several years. And so our plan is to have this ecosystem and this network of all these fulfillment centers so you can be anywhere and then you really receive your groceries anywhere, anyhow, and anytime. So with that, actually, I want to talk a little bit about what this takes internally as far as infrastructure. So for Kroger, in order to roll out this strategy, we have to make sure that we have the infrastructure in place and the support that we need to make sure that all the produce, everything that we are delivering is fresh. And, our brand, Simple Truth and Private Selection, it's really critical to make sure that we have that infrastructure in place. And as we, talk to internal and external stakeholders, we have to explain what we're doing and how we're doing it and our speed to market. And that's been a bit of a challenge because of the commitment that we're making in the speed to market, and then working with state and local economic development entities. You promise something and you may have a challenge with the site selection. And I'll talk a little bit about that in just a minute on some of the challenges we have. I've got some really good stories, but you will have some challenges. So you're not going to be able to meet all your commitments because this is such a new innovation. And you really have to make sure that you're aligned with your internal and external stakeholders to collaborate and move that forward. So that's really a key factor and how we roll this out. And one thing I do also want to mention with your external stakeholders, we talk about local economic development companies. A lot of your external stakeholders are also going to be your third-party suppliers, right? So as we build out this new innovation, we create new opportunities for different jobs. And, even though the solution is robotics, and we are using the bots and the robots to do a function, the way we now interact with our external stakeholders, the jobs and the positions are just changing and making it a little bit more unique in how we move this forward. And I really feel like this is like the digital transformation and the technology evolution in what this looks like. And we're on the forefront of this. Okay, so maybe if we can go to the next slide, Chris, we can talk a little bit about. Oh, it's a polling question. Oh, yes, it is. Okay, great. Okay, so getting to that, am I on track, Chris? Polling question? Great.
Sorry,
okay, perfect. Okay, great. So the polling question, and this is something interesting. So for each one of you, have you ever thought there would be a time that we would have you would have a grocery order? I'm sorry. Make sure. Okay. Will robots at any point in time ever to be agents to make a moral and ethical decision in the future? And as you're pondering that, if you think, yes, they will be, or no, they won't be, or I wouldn't even dare to guess, I just want to give you some insight on robotics and how that innovation has really going to change in many of the business factors and the business environments, but also it's going to change how our customers interact with our company, it was Kroger, and allowing these robots to really, pick the produce, and they are basically driven by our guidance. So we guide them every step of the way and explain to them what to do. So our polling results show that 20% thinks that these will eventually make a more unethical decision, and I think it depends on who's programming them. 61% says no, and 18% says we dare to guess. And so it's interesting because the robots, and we have another slide that'll show you exactly what they do in a very expedient time frame. Yeah, Chris wanted to show the bots. So these robots, essentially, they are programmed to identify an individual order. So if Chris places an order for his basket and he wants, his Cheerios and he wants his, Simple Truth milk to go with that, and then he wants his frozen pizza. So these bots know that I'm going to fill Chris's order, and I'm going to know exactly where in this. So this is what you're seeing in front of you is a hive, right? Where in this hive are those products, and those products are essentially on the bottom of the hive, and these robots basically suck up the item in its belly and then takes that item to an individual who will then verify that, yes, Chris did get his Cheerios, and then they will put it in his bin for his delivery. So these robots are told, and they're programmed essentially exactly time to time how to fulfill this order. And fulfilling this order, so, these robots, the speed, we'll be able to show you in just a minute, the speed of how they fly. But today, let's just give you some variation. So today, if we had to pick an order, let's say a basket of 50, 60 items, it'll take an associate approximately about an hour to pick everything, along with our customers that are also picking their own groceries. So a bot can pick your order in less than 5 minutes. So if you can imagine the speed of which the bot is told where all the items are, and then picking it and then delivering it, and then putting that order aside so Chris can get his stuff, and then filling the next order and filling the next order. So this is this technology and this innovation, as I had to explain it to other communities, it's something that is like unheard of, right? How can this actually work? As we negotiate the incentives and talk through really the impacts and how this is important to the community and how this is important to the future of grocery, this is the only visual that we have and to show that. So maybe Chris, if you want to go to the next slide, I think there's a.
Yep, I will. And I'm just amazed, Rita, how you knew exactly what my grocery order is. It must have been touched my wife or something.
There you go. So, okay, so if you can see in the live view, okay, did you guys see that on the speed of the bots? Okay, so essentially those bots, how fast they're going, and they're basically taking themselves along the grid to do the order, is really the state of the art, and that's through the platform that we're using with our partner Ocado. And as we build out our ecosystem, this is essentially what we're going to be doing in the United States and how we're going to be transforming this. So what you have here is basically each of these fulfillment centers. They are they're designed to be similar to one of our brick and mortar stores. So they're designed for our associates who work in each one of these facilities. And there's approximately 300 to 400 that works in every one of these facilities. It really allows them to say that they're a part of something bigger, and they're a part of a community that they're servicing our customers, but they're servicing them through this modality. So this is a picture of the Monroe facility that I mentioned that's going to be opening up here in a couple weeks. And this is really how we identified this site specifically in Ohio as our home state, and working with our partner, Jobs Ohio, and our local partners in the city of Monroe. We had brought this to them. We identified the site selection and walked through all the impacts and explained to them, these are the project challenges, right? So we've never done this before, and we're building a facility from the ground up. And, we have infrastructure challenges. We have challenges with workforce. We'll have challenges with, in supplying the vans for delivery. So there's multiple challenges. And really that goes back to how do we continue to work with our partners to overcome some of these challenges. And so in the next slide, maybe we can jump into that, Chris.
Yeah. So Rita, so the word innovation has been used a lot so far, and I think there's a reason for that. And that's something that we wanted to really hit on during this session. So the first one there is data analytics. And for many companies, data analytics is becoming increasingly, an important part of the way they operate and do business. I know Kroger's no different. I mean, the company uses data analytics in a variety of ways, but it seems as if data analytics would be a particularly helpful tool for Kroger as it rolls out these fulfillment centers across the country. So what role did data analytics play in the site selection process? You were just mentioning finding, the site in Monroe and for that site and the others, because, the company is looking for sites across the country for a type of facility that's never operated before.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question, Chris. So our data analytics company, 8451, they are basically the lifeline that lays out how do we roll this ecosystem out, and where do we choose to put one of these. We can choose to put one in state A, state B, and any location anywhere, right? Because they're fulfillment centers. So we have the power and the tools of 8451 to use analytics in identifying the site selection and where do we put the facility. So there's specific criteria that is really identified on the onset for each one of these facilities. And our analytics basically narrows it down and gives us a working radius that will help facilitate how do we look at location A versus location B, and what's the optimum structure, not only for that state and for that catchment area, but holistically throughout the United States. Because as I mentioned, that map that I showed you, we're building these out. And if we have overlap in the state, then that's not conducive to the whole platform, right? So we're building this, just think if you have a blank sheet of paper and you're drawing, where you want to be and how you want to be. That's essentially what we're working with this e-commerce. And that's how we use our 8451 for their data analytics to provide that criteria. So our 8451 division, we have data for over 60 million U.S. households. And it's meaningful insights on what they do and how they shop, and how they really how they engage with Kroger and other customers. So it's really important. This scientific data analytics really helps us explain why we would want to move forward with a specific site, and also from a workforce development perspective. It's interesting. Workforce development is a hot topic for many economic development locations or jurisdictions. So our data analytics that we use, and we also partner with the cities and states to make sure that if we choose a site from a site selection, there's the workforce to support it. So the last thing you want to do is build a fulfillment center 100 miles away from any workforce development, any workforce, and really have that the workforce be the right teams to not only work in the facility, but also to grow in the community and grow the business. So those are all key points, and that's a lot of work that has been done over the last several years, and now we see that rolling out. And I think I mentioned when COVID hit, we have been working this for quite some time, but when COVID hit, it just increased that time period has advanced over 3 to 5 years ahead of time.
Okay, so Rita, for having worked with Scott and I in our group, that we assist clients and just as we assist you with economic development projects on a nationwide basis. So the three of us on here, we now are well aware that incentives programs vary wildly from state to state and even from, adjacent cities. So we both, have experiences where incentives programs on the books may not match up with really the needs of the projects or how it fits with what you want to accomplish. So can you share some examples of incentives being used creatively to help make a project of yours a success?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question, Chris. We've used many of the tools, economic development tools that are pretty standard. We've used tax increment financing. We've also used property tax abatements. And, I think yesterday Lori's had the webinar that talked about sales tax sharing in Texas and that 1% sales tax sharing. And those tools are out there. We've used those, and those are the tools that we go in with and discussing how do we best support this project from an economic incentive perspective. But what has been unique is that we've faced many challenges along the way. And I'll give an example, and this is public, and you can Google this. So in our Florida site, we identified the site selection. So we had the site. We were looking to build on the site, and as part of our analysis, we noticed that there was an endangered wildlife. There were tortoises, and the tortoises had a nesting ground on that 100 acres, right? So, what do we do with that? How do we move the tortoises? How do we handle the tortoises? And we had presented this to City Council that there's an endangered species, there's wildlife that is on the property that we're looking to build in your community. And, it's going to cause challenges to the extent that we may need to pivot and not take that site. We'll need to delay the project for a year because we have to wait for mating season to determine how to move them and where to move them. And it's also financial. So this wasn't part of our scope. So how financially, there's a significant cost in moving that. So we worked creatively with, there was an endangered species group within the city that helped facilitate Kroger to successfully transport these tortoises and bring them a new home. And we allowed us to build on that. So those are some of the examples that we've had in the unique incentives. And, that was a partnership, a true private-public partnership, because they knew that we had a need. They wanted us to continue to build there, and they helped us out by connecting us with the right endangered species and helping it financially as well. That allowed us to build that project there. We also had another example, another property that we had burrowing owls that were on the property. I mean, think about hundreds of acres in the middle, of locations, and then so many years, you have your endangered species living there, and that's their home. And so, similar example, we were able to partner with the state and local to handle that. And then we also have worked with state and local jurisdictions on wetlands. So wetlands has been a challenge for us in some of these properties. So we've worked in receiving wetland credits as opposed to, your typical incentives. We always look to get job tax credits because the jobs are great paying jobs with a significant amount of benefits. So we work with them on the job tax credits and then the training grants. The training grants have been very helpful and instrumental for us as we roll out this strategy.
Good. You should work that the wildlife work that you should work that into your marketing campaigns, or you should mention that to your marketing team.
Yeah.
Kroger
absolutely, yeah,
saves tortoises. So okay,
yeah,
so
we
so let's move into the success factors you guys have had. So given the challenges of these new facilities and the timing of getting all these rolled out, obviously it's not your typical, all right, we're going to put up a manufacturing, food processing plant or a typical distribution center. There are, different aspects and dynamics going on. So let's talk about how you made, some of these projects so successful so far. I know firsthand that Kroger sees state and local jurisdictions as partners. It's not just lip service. I've seen it up close and personal, working with you and Jill. So I know that there have been times when you've come to, a stalemate on certain issues. So how do you manage to work with your, state and local partners to find that compromise to resolve a stalemate and move the project forward?
Yeah, great question. It's not easy. So at times, and as we navigated through this, we have been in situations that were extremely challenging, and to the point where we were in the process of closing on the property, and we had to undo it. So I mean, they are very real. And working with state and local communities, I think the most important thing is to make sure that as you negotiate the incentive, we negotiate with a good faith effort, right? We know what we're bringing. We know who we are as a company. And the partnership that we have with each one of these jurisdictions is truly just that. So, to the extent there is a stalemate, it's understanding how can we work together? How can we work around this? One example that I wanted to share is there was a zoning challenge and a zoning requirement that we needed to operate the facility. However, the city had zoned it a specific zoning for various reasons, and to change that zoning would entail a significant amount of public insight or a public forum, and we'd have to go into the community and do a community outreach to talk through what the zoning requirement is and what we're building, and really get local support. And that was going to be a bit of a challenge because that was going to basically change the direction of how we were going to move this facility. So in our partnership with the state and local economic development, they were able to work it out where the zoning, we were able to get a variance, and we were able to basically do a setback of the facility to not have it impact that zoning and that requirement. So we were able to work together and to say, okay, the options of this facility, you can do A, B, or C. And, we were ready to walk and walk away from that site. But that partnership is trying to work together to identify creative solutions of how do we, put this facility here. And it's also really important that with our communities, every time we look at a community, we call them our neighbors. Even in our stores, they're our neighbors, and our customers and our associates are our neighbors. So it's really important for us to make sure that we have all those challenges and all that, vetted up front. And as we go in front of local communities and their council meetings for these approvals, we are pretty open to say this is what we're doing. This is how we want to bring this project to your communities. And some are pretty open and welcoming, and others are not. And so that just allows us to be very flexible in how do we move off of those.
Got it. So you touched on workforce a little bit earlier. I do want to go back to that because the lack of qualified labor is an issue across the country. We run into it basically in almost every jurisdiction or project that we see, and it's really at the top of the list of critical items for companies looking to establish new operations or grow existing ones. So, how does Kroger approach talent development to ensure it has the quality of employees it needs on a nationwide scale, given the volume that you mentioned earlier of the number of employees that you have?
Yeah. So our talent development is unique because our business is, we have the many facets of our business. We have our retail operations, our brick and mortar stores, and we also have our manufacturing, which is a different skill set. And then we have our data analytics and then technology. So we have the myriad of the labor workforce in front of us. So for Kroger, I really feel like those challenges, our HR group and our leadership team has instilled a process of hiring that makes it important for us to make sure that we have the right people for the right positions. And the last thing we want to do is hire somebody for a position that isn't going to work for them and it's not going to work for the company. So we're very strategic in how we hire, and we've had such a great hiring program. And so that I think is just sets us apart from a lot of the other big retailers. The other item I wanted to talk through is our ability to be able to train up our associates. Our CFO, Rodney, says this, and I say this in every meeting. You come here for a job. You come to Kroger. Everyone works at Kroger. But you come here for a job and you stay here for a career because there are so many opportunities. And that really shows that, we're building up our teams internally, as well as, hiring the right people for the right positions. And a big portion of that, Chris, that we see is the state and local communities they're helping us in their workforce development. When they say that they have a workforce development group, they really help us from start to finish in identifying the right candidates for the right positions. So we do a lot of partnership with state and local workforce development as well.
Great. And it's amazing too, Rita, just as a side note, as you know, the types of training programs and partnerships that the local communities have across the country vary, and some are more efficient and you get better value out of it. But it's amazing all the different types of partnerships with local community colleges and technical schools and the like that you could utilize to help to help find the right people and then get their skills up to where you need them. So Rita,
absolutely.
When you're negotiating incentives for this, for these fulfillment centers specifically, there are a lot of moving pieces. So you have to balance. I guess, how do you balance the need for Kroger to meet the market demand, which is really resulting in these fulfillment centers going up across the country at a pretty rapid rate? How do you balance that with the time frame that the state or local jurisdiction you're working with it needs for its process and its approvals and negotiation and the political movement behind the scenes? And then also the need for Kroger as a public company to make public announcements regarding these facilities. I mean, there's a lot going on there. So how have you been able to balance all that?
Yeah, Well, I've got an amazing team, first and foremost. So that is important. That our economic development team here internally within Kroger is just phenomenal. So they know exactly the timing and when to come in, and really essentially they kind of help drive that process. And the key is flexibility and being able to be able to pivot and know when we need to make those decisions and when to pause on a project. So it's a lot of coordination, and it's really your internal stakeholders and making sure that everyone is aligned. We touch every business unit. We touch the real estate team, legal team, ops team, digital team, HR team. So we kind of run it all. And then even our corporate affairs team, because we don't want an announcement made when we haven't closed on the property. So there's a lot of coordination and a great team.
Great. Yeah, I can vouch for that. The kind of the internal network that you develop to coordinate all this within Kroger it's impressive. That's definitely not the case with every company, unfortunately. So moving on to the rollout of e-commerce fulfillment centers, Jill, do you want to touch on this?
Do you want to come up here? Yeah, okay, we're going to switch spots. Okay. So.
Hi, Chris. Sorry, technical difficulties. But I'm here and we're social distancing. So yeah, for the rollout of the e-commerce, these fulfillment centers. So it's now what? Now we've successfully utilized innovative solutions and collaborated with state and local officials to determine the optimal geographic location and the property for the facility. And we've also secured financial support to offset startup and operating costs. So I guess the point we wanted to make here is, now's really the time to capitalize on the relationships that we've made along the way, that we've forged through site selection and incentives negotiations. The economic development officials have opened up doors for us. The challenges that Rita touched upon before, anywhere from endangered species to, trouble with permits. We now have those relationships. And I don't think companies should be afraid to call, the contacts that they've made along the way. And, cities go through thousands of permits a week. But if you don't call and get yours on top, it just helps. And we found that along the way. And all over various jurisdictions to help with expediting permitting, which can be critical to getting up and running. And then again, we talked about creative solutions. So as we're rolling out, continue that. Communities are all unique and different. So you just have to be prepared for anything that comes your way. I think Rita didn't mention we had a project with a property owner that was reluctant to move off the property. So that was another way that we just worked hand in hand with the community and this resident. And
he's still there. We built around him.
And he's still on the property. I think we maybe named the road after him or something. But again, the relationships you've made, they're strong and continue to use the economic development. The partnerships, that we have also for the rollout, they've been instrumental in marketing. So as we go to market, our economic development, our external economic development contacts have connected us to the various chambers of commerce, businesses. So it's just that kind of word of mouth marketing that is invaluable, along with other types of, we've won awards, which was nice along the way for some of these larger projects. And so it's a win that just underscores the win-win. The communities get the project, we get the acknowledgement and the press. So that's very helpful. And it's all because of these relationships that you build along the way. So I think, and again, we already touched on the workforce development and training, but I don't think we can say enough about that because we can't grow unless we find the talent. And so linking up with training institutes and workforce development agencies allows us, gives us the ammunition that we need to be successful. So after the incentives agreements are inked, there's still many reasons to maintain strong relationships within the communities we serve. They want us to succeed as much as we want us to succeed. So it's always a win-win.
Great. All right, so I think we have one last polling question. So let's get that going.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So now that you've heard about Kroger's robust e-commerce ecosystem, now how likely are you to have groceries delivered to your home from Kroger?
Yeah.
Okay. I think we made some headway.
Yeah, I'd take that. I'd take it.
So I would too. I'm going to take the first groups and group them together. Not likely at all. We're going to assume that you love your neighborhood Kroger brick and mortar store and need to go in that and see and feel the produce.
That's right. All right. I think we have, before we jump into the Q&A, I think we have one final video clip of.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So clearly that video was pre-COVID. That goes without saying. It's amazing how quickly you pick up on that these days, how dated some things are. All right. So let's jump into some of the questions we got. So Rita and Jill, a few of the questions are actually more about, not so much incentives, but actually about Kroger and new function here. So how large of a geography will the Monroe facility serve and the other fulfillment centers serve?
Right. So that catchment area, as Rita noted before, will be 3 to 5 hours surrounding, each hub fulfillment center.
Sorry, I had to get off my mute there. And then, all right, next question. Is the 8451 data analysis services mentioned internal to Kroger, or is that a private provider?
That is internal to Kroger.
Okay.
Yes. That's
and then how
Kroger owned.
Okay. All right, thanks, Jill. So then how do the bins below the bots get filled, and how is the quality of produce checked ahead of delivery to the customer?
Okay. We're switching roles. And so after this, we're going out to the Monroe facility so Jill can see it firsthand. So,
right.
So essentially when the produce, and this is like, and I've got 2 minutes left to talk to this, but essentially this is a total disruption to our supply chain, because what happens is all the produce comes into the fulfillment center and is put into the bot or into the hive. And so when your produce comes in, you get your milk that's brought to the fulfillment center. It's actually entered into the hive, and then it's picked that day and delivered to you tomorrow. So if you look at your regular supply chain, the whole the e-commerce or the supply chain function where you purchase the product or you you purchase the item, it goes into a distribution center, sits there for a day or two, and then gets put on a truck on a pallet and then delivered to the store. The store takes it off the shelf, takes it off of the pallet onto the shelf. You take it off of the shelf, bring it to your house. That's like a 5-day lead time. And so by, with some of the audience that explained that, this home delivery, that this innovative solution basically increases the amount of shelf life for all our items and all your produce, all your milk products. So it's definitely a significant change. So once all the items are put into the system and they are manually done, all the produce is manually checked, verified, and put into the system, just like we would do the store. So think of it as a robotic store. There's no difference. We put it into the hive, and then the bots pick it, and then we have our customer service reps that make sure that those items are for your order.
All right, great. Well, thank you for that. All right, well, we finished up right on time. So Rita and Jill, thank you. For all the audience members, thank you very much for participating. Please feel free to, again, as Scott noted, to provide suggestions. We take that very seriously and try to incorporate that into our future conferences. Please fill out the evaluation forms, and thank you again. Enjoy the last session this afternoon.
Great. Thank you.